I collect magnets. One for each country I visit, sometimes multiple. The hunt for the perfect magnet can take hours and bring me to dozens of shops, craft fairs, flea markets, random stalls on the side of the road, anything and anywhere to find the perfect piece to take home. The magnet is given a spot on a metal board that sits on my desk. The chronicle of journeys taken, a reminder of memories from a bygone time, a part of my life story. You probably know someone like this who collects magnets. It might even be you. But why magnets? Why souvenirs? Why do we go to such great lengths for the perfect find abroad? Why rummage through bins, scan every tourist shop in the area, and search out entire craft fairs for your piece of the foreign? A piece of the exotic. Why do we collect magnets? I recently went to Japan. Tokyo to Osaka to Kyoto to Hiroshima and back to Tokyo for the flight home. I would describe Japan as an uncanny but alluring fusion of dystopian and utopian that can only be found by a country seeping with tradition in a stage of capitalism so late that the slot machines are branded with anime characters put there to try to sell you a manga. In the big cities, lights, ads, and action don't leave your side for a minute. Total sensory overload overwhelms you. All this to say that it was a strange, beautiful, and intense vacation, but I loved every second. And oh boy, the merch. Ask anyone what to buy in Japan, and they will all give you the same answer. Everything. And honestly, there's some truth to this. Clothing, ceramics, custom chopsticks, matcha straight from Muji, plushies, prints, stationery, snacks, and yes, magnets populate the shopping streets and tourist areas from tip to tip of the country. People line up around the block for shoes. Locals and tourists alike crowd confectionery shops moments before they open for the perfect gift. And people walk the aisles of each and every Uniqlo, Goo, and Muji looking for that one item that will make or break their Japan haul. I ended up spending hundreds on cooking gear, the culmination of which was 2 knives. Shopping is truly an art in Japan, and there's a reason that merch haul TikToks and shorts get millions of views. The way you source, curate, and display these pieces is something out of the art world, a type of gallery of the self. I hyper-focus on the merch because it is such an essential part of any trip abroad. And when you've had enough beers and whiskey highballs with other tourists, you begin to see patterns. Everyone feels the need to stand out, and buying and displaying merch from abroad makes the traveler feel like they are actively building lore in the pursuit of a more authentic self. To fully understand this notion of authentic self, we have to discuss travel as a form of leisure. I was asked by so many people about my Japan trip, and reflecting always caused an immense amount of sensory information as I remembered my experience. Memories of travel are intensely picturesque and sensory, and it is that exact rosy recollection that makes travel something leisurely, fulfilling, and nostalgic. Take a second to reflect on some of your own travel. I'd wager you're recalling it with the same amount of sensory, almost poetic detail as I recall Japan. To go abroad for leisure is to appreciate the foreign country like one appreciates a painting, overflowing with aesthetic beauty. The traveler views a place as picturesque, finding beauty in its exoticism, design, and chaos. Seeking out the exotic and living in it becomes a form of art in itself. Architectural writer Christopher Hussey calls this the art of travel in his novel, The Picturesque, Studies in a Point of View. Your memories, my memories, and any TikToks, TV shows, or YouTube videos all frame the destination like a painting. So rich with whimsy that you could just jump in and start a grand adventure in this new exotic world. The exotic is a tough concept, one with dark roots in colonialism that haunts it to this day. While its previous iteration is unquestionably morally wrong, the exotic today has become a much more gray area in cultural discourse. Its redemption lies in the fact that the average traveler no longer wishes to overwhelm the other with their own beliefs, and instead wishes to learn from the exotic in a way that adds complexity to their own life story. Of course, a foreign culture is an infinitely complex bundle of rules, history, customs, and norms that can only be partially understood through years of total immersion. The exotic, on the other hand, is more like a window that allows us to understand a culture in the most surface-level way possible. We turn what is too massive to comprehend as an outsider into a picturesque and smoothed-over version of itself, a destination. It frames and tames the culture in our minds and presents it in a way that we can understand as a passerby. This framing and taming manifests physically as a souvenir, one which we will eventually add to our gallery of the self upon returning home. While this isn't necessarily wrong, it does create two different versions of a place like Japan. One is the alluring and novel destination on the top of everyone's travel lists, while the other is a normal country where locals go about their lives. Viewing the foreign as an exotic destination makes the act of travel a journey into the unknown. Going anywhere outside of your comfort zone breaks the mold of your day-to-day life and makes you adapt to survive in the new environment. Like the traveler in Japan having to purchase a coin purse for the many small transactions they will no doubt encounter, or the traveler in New York learning how to navigate the subway. Small adjustments like that take us outside of our box, and stacking enough of them makes travel something deeply transformative. Adaptability is possibility, highlighting alternative approaches to daily life and building you into a more open-minded version of yourself who is removed from daily comforts, a more authentic self. Through storybooks as children to TV shows as adults, we're taught that self-growth, our true selves, lie at the end of a journey. Luke leaves Tatooine to confront Vader, Frodo leaves the Shire to destroy the Ring, and you, the viewer, go abroad to fulfill your own personal quest. Modern society is built on routine. You drive the same road to the same job that you've been working at for years, where you do the same work for the possibility of a promotion. Each day might bring small changes, but ultimately, days blend together. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, and most of us have a week that looks similar. But there's a reason our heroes like Luke and Frodo become cultural icons. They challenge routine. Poet and literary critic Susan Stewart paints the exotic in direct opposition to routine in her book On Longing, which was used extensively when researching this video. Stewart claims that authentic experience becomes both elusive and elusive and is placed beyond the horizon of present lived experience, the beyond in which the antique, the pastoral, the exotic, and other fictive domains are articulated. In this way, authenticity can be found through the exotic. Your narrative of self is your own story that you build through adventures into the unknown. Stories that you will eventually display in your gallery of the self via the souvenirs that you bring back home. The world calls, screams for you to talk better, to look better, to be more interesting, to learn skills, and to be a mold breaker. Like the heroes we worship, we desire to become our best selves, and to have a life worthy of displaying in our gallery. This puts the exotic in direct opposition, or placed beyond the horizon, to the typical. The 9-to-5, the daily classes, and the weekly shopping trips. There is no heroic feat in these daily habits, no journey, no yellow brick road, and no whimsy. The trip abroad beckons the would-be traveler to break their habits, even if just for a week. It calls on them to broaden their mind, learn something new, and ultimately become more interesting and grow, opening us up to the world in a way that most haven't felt since childhood. Nostalgia is a concept often coupled with the authentic. And, as mentioned earlier in this video, travel is something we often find deeply nostalgic. Stewart believes that nostalgia is the desire for desire. The place and time we are nostalgic for only exists in the past, and we can only scratch the surface of the feelings we felt during those times. Nostalgia is the inability to make that feeling real, the unspoken gap between the memory of an experience and the experience as it actually happened. You felt more authentic as a child, and most likely look back on those experiences with the same rosy and picturesque lens that you view a trip abroad with. Finding a back alley ramen shop, trying hot drinks from a vending machine, hiking to a shrine at the top of a mountain for a special shrine charm, These things all create a feeling of childlike wonder because they challenge routine, ultimately becoming a part of your life story. But childlike wonder is fleeting. You need something tangible to help hold on to that sense of happiness, to the memory of such a fun time, to that authentic self before you go home and return to your standard routine. You need a magnet. I like to think of the magnet, or any souvenir, as a type of key, something that you look at to unlock the memories and feelings you had while abroad. Faced with such intense calls to be our best selves in a world where daily routine is inevitable, we need constant reminders of our brush with the foreign, physical proof of the character building we did abroad, a story we can tell to add to our narrative of self, a piece we can display in our gallery. So we head to the souvenir shop. To better understand how souvenirs unlock a story, let's discuss a concept used in almost every social science: the signifier and the signified. The signifier is the physical form of something, the image of this tree, for example. The signified is the idea that the signifier points to. In this case, the image of the tree points to the concept of a tree in your mind. Maybe seeing this makes you think of a tree swaying in the wind, or evokes a memory of climbing a tree, or maybe it makes you imagine the texture of the bark. Souvenirs do the same thing. When I view my magnet board or look at a bookmark I purchased at the top of Mount Meissen in Miyajima, the memories and feelings of the trip come back to me. I create a rosy image in my brain of the waterfall that ran up the trail, the many shrines encountered along the way, the immense heat and sweat building up all over my body, the way the trail smelled, the sound of the dirt crunching. It's a very picturesque memory. Looking at the souvenir unlocked that memory for me, and unlocked a far more robust recollection than I could have remembered on my own. Like looking back on childhood, these memories may be idealized and rosy, but the Mount Meissen hike is now a story I tell, something that is very much a part of me. I would invite you to pause the video here and take a second to reflect on a similar story that you have. Consider how it has become a piece of your life story. And think of any objects that are displayed in your gallery of the self that might unlock memories of this experience. Also consider how you might use these objects to display this story to others. Congratulations, you just used a signifier to unlock a signified. While we experience something like a trip abroad in the moments, it cannot become a story until we return to normalcy. Whatever story you might have imagined in this exercise must be recalled, remembered. It can't be felt in the present moments. Without memories of the trip, the signifier has nothing to signify. A magnet is a piece of plastic, a pair of custom chopsticks are simply kitchen tools, and a Mount Meissen bookmark only saves the page. Because these objects unlock our memories, and because memories of an authentic time will always be nostalgic and thus idealized, in telling the stories associated with these objects, we too feel like a hero who went through a journey. They represent a time where you were a brave adventurer, someone who could live as a local in a radically different world, someone who took risks in the exotic and grew from it. Let's think back to the merch halls mentioned earlier in this video, and think about how they display souvenirs like a gallery. If each one of those items unlocks a story, then showing off hauls on TikTok or YouTube is essentially that person narrating their grand adventure to you. And what you do is largely the same. When you display magnets or other souvenirs in your house, apartment, or anywhere, you are narrating a grand adventure to others. These items are proof that you were a hero, you did survive the exotic, you did grow, and you reached a more authentic self because of it. Like the gap between childhood memories and now, recalling the experience will never be as real as actually being there. But when you hold a souvenir, you're not just holding a normal object. You're holding a bridge between your present identity and a past that you can never fully reclaim. There's nothing wrong with never fully being the self you were on the trip again. Even the semblance of that self found through memory is enough to make you feel more authentic in your day-to-day life. But no matter how many stories, no matter how many magnets, no matter how much experience we have, the pursuit of your most authentic self never ends. It can never end. When the hero hangs up their cape, they long for a time where they wore it with pride. When you return from your trip, you long for the next one, the next break from normal life. Thus, we seek out more and more experiences, more intense brushes with the exotic, more stories, More magnets. Stewart's book is called On Longing for a reason. Longing for a past self, for childhood, for the next journey, is essential to the process of knowing what we want and who we are. The world requires us to constantly evolve, to seek out constant change and constant challenge. Seeking more authentic experiences, more magnets for the board, is a Sisyphean task. A boulder we push up the mountain again and again, learning a little more with each climb up and with each tumble down. That boulder might never reach the top, but pursuing our most authentic self despite it all, and making sure everyone knows it, is the most human thing we can do. So if you were to take anything away from this video at all, let it be this. Keep finding souvenirs, keep pushing yourself to do new things, keep challenging routine, and most importantly of all, keep collecting magnets.